Hello, investors. It is Ted Zhang, Associate Portfolio Manager with Revere Asset Management. Today is Monday, June 17th, 4:41 p.m., coming to you from Fort Lauderdale with tonight's Revere Roundup Daily Market Insight video. The state of the market uptrend since starting from May 6th, and then the GROTECTION gauge. We still have market leaders in the bullish uptrend. Market leaders are still acting well, and we'll get into that. Many things acting well today. Short term, S&P and Nasdaq are still above the 21 EMA. Dow mid caps and small caps are below, so we have them in the red with a yellow sub arrow. Medium term trend, we still have a green arrow above the 50 SMA, and the long term trend is still above the 200-day SMA. And we've talked about it every day and week. As long as we're above the 200-day SMA, there's really nothing to worry about. So what just happened today? The S&P and the Nasdaq made new all-time highs, and the tech leaders were extremely strong. The 21 over 21 was up 1.09% today. 13 names up, one neutral, and then 7 down. And we'll get into many of those names in the coming later on this video. The big eight we have at up 1.23% today. Our in-house RG8 is up 0.95%. The S&P is up 0.77%, and the equal weighted index is up 0.7%. The Nasdaq QQQ is up 1.23% today, and the equal weighted is up 1.02%. So we are seeing some breadth following up today, like we talked about with breadth deterioration Friday and over the weekend on our video. The Dow up 0.52%, mid caps 0.86%, Russell 0.71%, the 60/40 equities bond portfolio up 0.26%, and GROTECTION is up 0.53%. So let's jump right into the inter-asset correlation. Starting up with S&P 500, we notched a new all-time high today. I'll go on a 5-minute chart real quick. We opened pretty much flat today and traded in a very tight range for about the first hour. And then we staged a breakout and essentially trended all day. And towards the close, we faded a little bit, but overall, still a very, very strong close on the S&P on the daily and the weekly, as you can see here. The QQQ also notched a new all-time high today. We are 6 days up in a row. Relative strength, new high, just pretty much flawless action here. One thing to note is, and we've noted in the past, we're about 9% above the 50-day simple moving average and about 8 ATRs above. And historically, when we see this 8 to 10% extension from the 50-day, we like to pull back our aggressiveness mentally and either wait for a pullback, some sort of digestion to let the key moving averages catch up. But once again, really good action in this index. The Dow up today, reclaiming some moving averages. So if this continues to fall through, we'll have to change our stance on the trend of the Dow and upgrade this index as well. Mid caps, a little bit of a bounce today, up 0.89%, but still below the declining 8, 21, and 50 MAs. Small caps, another bounce too. We did have a shakeout below 2,000 and staged a bullish engulfing. But as you can see, the relative strength line is still in a steep decline, and we still have a lot of resistance ahead to clear. We need to see us get above this reversal high after FOMC. The VIX up 0.71%, not too much action here, nothing to worry about yet. The dollar down 0.21%, still above the key moving averages. Gold still in this rectangle box formation between this 210 level and 225. Within this range, it could just continue to chop around. But if we get over 225, our expectation is that gold will make a move higher, and below 210 will likely retest this super long-term range in the 200 level. Gold miners below the 821 and 50 might be finding support in this 32 area. Silver, pretty nice flag forming actually. bouncing off the 50-day moving average and just about reclaiming the 8 and 21. If we follow through here, the 8 and 21 could start hooking up, 50 follows on, and we could see another move in silver. The weekly still looks amazing out of the stage one, super long base. Bitcoin, we trimmed some Bitcoin last Friday, but we actually added 1% back today on this hold and reclaim of the 50-day. I don't have a Bitcoin spot chart with me, but we also reclaimed the all-time high anchored VWAP and had an undercut and reclaim of a key level as well. The broad bonds pulled back a bit today with rates higher or bond yields higher. TLT, same thing, pulled back a bit today with rates higher. And here we go. Here's the 30-year bond yield. Just a counter trend rally so far, so nothing too much to worry about. We definitely want to see this continue to come down. And then the 10-year, a counter trend rally so far, still below the 200, 50, 8, and 21. So nothing too much to worry about yet. So now the tail of the tape. Market still in uptrend like we talked about. The news this morning at 8:30 a.m., we had the Empire Manufacturing stronger than expected. But it was stronger. It contracted less. It was stronger than expected, but still contracted. But that still shows us that the manufacturing sector of the U.S. economy is still remaining robust and holding in there. And that is good to see in terms of economics. Day count, we're up 4 out of 5 days in the last 5 days. 11 days above the 8 EMA, 12 days above the 21 EMA. I mean, new all-time highs in the S&P and the NASDAQ. That makes our expectations positive. But like I said, we are rationally optimistic about the future as we are historically extended above the 50-day simple moving average, which warrants at least a consolidation or a pullback and reversion to the mean. The action, we started off today flat. We based for the first hour, and then we broke out and trended for pretty much the entire day. Sectors, the strong sectors today, the bond prices were up with yields down. Bitcoin and Bitcoin miners were up. Strong action today. Tech, communications, staples, industrials, regional banks, financials, and home builders. On the downside, bond yields, like I said, the dollar, solar, which we'll talk about our FSLR and NXT positions and how we're handling those, biotech, utilities, and copper. And then we'll go over some focus list names as well. That's part of the 21 over 21 review. So our portfolio started off at 1.42 beta, and the adjusted RVAB now after selling ON, which we'll talk about, doubling TMDX and rebuying some IBIT puts us at 1.38 beta. The bottom line, we made a new all-time high today in the S&P and QQQ, and the leaders are extremely strong. So onto the 21 over 21. Palantir was the biggest mover today. We didn't end up buying this. We just have a lot of exposure right now, but we were definitely watching this name at this 25 level, which might be short near-term resistance, but it came out this really nice pivot here and on above average volume. So that looks really good. Maybe we can get some sideways consolidation under the 25 level and look for an entry. SMCI, which we own, great action, higher highs. Even though the 50-day is in a downtrend here, but the AN21 is starting to turn up. We might come up to this 975, 1000 level and then require some tightening and let that 50-day get an uptrend before we break out of this 1000 area. Micron, extremely strong action, more upgrades from various banks and institutions. We own this name as well. Above the 8 EMA, there's really nothing to complain about. Kava, also great action today, making relative higher highs on above average volume as well. This name continues to act well, and we're going to just continue to ride the trend. Apple, starting to flag up here after this monstrous 2-day move. It is a little bit extended historically for Apple, so perhaps we go sideways a bit more and see if we can get more out of Apple. TMDX, we doubled TMDX today to a 2% position. We made new all-time highs, but so far squatted back into the range. This is far from done so far. And what I really like about this name is, and I've talked about on the podcast, we broke out of a 9-month base on enormous earnings and revenues. And to be exact, 538% year over year, 133% in revenues. And we are in that perfect 400 to 500 funds area, which is historically where these mid caps graduate into large caps. As you can see, we have about a $4.7 billion market cap with only 30 million float. And with enormous accelerations in earnings and annual earnings, this could see rapid price increases as we've seen in the past few weeks. And finally, what makes this even more of an explosive setup for me is that it came out of an earnings gap and it's turned into a high tight flag. It went up 100% plus, only corrected about 12%, and it's getting extremely tight here. So what I'm looking for is some new highs and this trend to continue. Coin, still building this right side and starting to put in a handle. We'll probably look to add another percent over 265, or even perhaps tomorrow above these highs to cheat into it. Nvidia, the number one stock in the market, continues to trend above the 8 EMA. And as long as something's trending above the 8, we have no complaints with that. This is definitely the name everyone is watching. And I read actually today that one of the biggest tech funds has to allocate about 20% of their fund to Nvidia and reduce Apple. So there's institutions are forced to move into Nvidia, and this will continue to see capital inflows. And then let's talk about a name we sold today. And let's go on the 5-minute chart first. In the morning, we had a gap down and just relentless selling. So we have to always think risk first. And that is why we got rid of the position. But as you can see, ONON stage, just a remarkable reversal back above the 21, but still below the 8. Like always, we can always get back into this name, and we're still very favorable on the future of this company. And then the two solar names, I talked about TAM being weak, the solar sector being weak today. There wasn't really any news today that we saw, but we still have to manage risk. We ended up sticking with FSLR because we gave it to the end of the day for it to trade since we have a 204 average about. So we're still up about 35%. And we just about reclaimed the 21 EMA. So as long as we continue to hold these lows, these key lows and the 250 area, we're likely to stick with this position. And after a 50% move in 4 to 5 days, it is normal for a stock to set up a new base. And we did have a short flag that we tried to break out of and failed. And we failed at the previous all-time high area of around 305 to 320. And if you look at the monthly, it would be reasonable for us to base here for at least a few months. And then finally, NXT, which we own as well. With First Solar being the leader in the sector, it's reasonable that NXT retreated a little bit, but this action is still absolutely normal. We're keying on this 62 level to see if we can continue building out this handle and break out from there. And that is going to wrap it for today. As always, we like to hear from you. My email is ted@revereasset.com in this bottom right-hand corner. My Twitter is TedHZhang. And then you can also reach out to Dan and Don at revereasset.com and Connor at revereasset.com. Our phone is 855-REAL-WEALTH, and that is 855-732-5932. And once again, we named our flagship portfolio GROTECTION because we aim to participate when the market is in an uptrend and protect money when we're in downtrends. And if you're interested in becoming a client, please reach out to any of us. And with that said, I'll wrap it up for Monday, June 17th. This is Ted Zhang with Revere Asset Management, telling it like it is. Thanks for listening and have a great week.